Good morning. This is Ralph back again, and in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the coming disruptions of Industry 4.0. And actually, I shouldn't be talking about the coming disruptions of Industry 4.0. Uh, our economy has already been disrupted by Industry 4.0, and it's going to be getting worse. Now, what the heck am I talking about? Industry 4.0 is a term that's been coined to describe the fourth industrial revolution. And the fourth industrial revolution is the rise in automation. In Terminator type language, you could call it the rise of the machines. And what we're seeing happen, and what we've been seeing happening in the recent past, is that robots have been taking over human jobs. In the area that I live, uh, we used to have a chicken factory, chicken production plant, not too far away from where I live now, and that used to be the main backbone of our local economy. I mean, they provided jobs for, I think it was over 1,000 people, and of course we live in a small community, so I mean, jobs for 1,000 people, that was a tremendous asset. And what happened eventually is that after a few years, automation just got developed to the point where machines could be programmed to debone chicken faster and better than what human beings could do it. And so what the company found is that it was cheaper just to build machines to do the work of deboning chicken than it was to be hiring 1,000 people in all phases of production to be deboning chicken and paying them, like back when I was working at that plant, we were making $8 per hour plus incentive bonuses based on the quality of the chicken produced. And yeah, when you can just buy machines that will do all that work and work the job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without needing a break, without needing a raise, without complaining, then it's a no-brainer. I mean, companies will go on the side of automation and start putting people out of work. And I've seen that happen already in our small community, and this is something that's been happening all across the company. Factories are shifting away from human workers to automated workers, robots, automated means of production. People who work in the, more the intellectual businesses, like doctors and lawyers. You might think that their jobs are safe from automation, but what they are finding out is that, AI programs can be developed that can do the jobs of lawyers. And AI programs combined with robotic arms and humanoid type robots actually are now performing surgeries in certain parts of the world. And as this technology becomes more advanced, which it is, and becomes phased in more radically into the job sector, we are going to be seeing a lot of jobs just disappear. So I had to confront this truth in my own life back in 2011 after, seeing jobs going by the wayside in my small rural community. And back in 2011, I decided that I was going to become an entrepreneur and do what I could working from home. And in our case, becoming an entrepreneur, it took a few years to actually get established. It took some planning. It took a lot of risk taking. It took a certain level of guts. But eventually, we made that pay off to where now I don't have to travel anywhere for a job. I am not dependent on a corporation to have money coming into my family income. And that's the solution that I found, is just taking the path of becoming first self-employed, and then I learned a little bit more about what becoming an entrepreneur actually meant, and I made the shift from becoming self-employed to becoming an entrepreneur. We'll go more into that in another video. But yeah, I learned to break that cycle of dependence that I was in, being dependent upon a company to provide me a job, to allow me to work, to provide me a living and a yearly income, to just being self-sufficient, self-reliant, to where I could create my own job, create my own business, start taking my own risks, and reaping the reward. Now, the reason I'm showing you this Twitter page, Andrew Yang, I have to take my hat off to Andrew Yang. He is running for president, and he's one of the few people who are actually talking about the disruptions of Industry 4.0. And what he advocates, he's an entrepreneur too, but what he's advocating is a universal basic income. And you can see that here on his Twitter page, is that he is promoting the idea of a $1,000 a month guaranteed universal basic income for everybody. And that would just be a free giveaway. How we're going to pay for it, he wants to pay for it through a value-added tax, but I think we have to get a lot more specific on that question, because, you know, a value-added tax, it's like, okay, we tax the means of production, and we're taxing people as they add value to certain consumer goods and products. But what happens is that value-added tax is inevitably passed on to the consumer. So, you know, it's a tax that, first of all, you know, people are in favor of it because, oh, we're taxing the corporations and the companies. But then they find out that, no, you're actually going to be paying for the cost of that tax every time you buy a product, and people become a little less enthusiastic about it. And I would kind of question, okay, if you're going to be giving out $1,000 a month to everybody in the United States, whether they need it or not, and then be paying that back in a value-added tax, what's the effect going to be? Is it going to be like, here, I give you $1,000 a month, and now you have to pay me $500 in taxes to support the cost of the program? I mean, I don't know the specifics yet, and I think that's something that we have to have a pretty good national discussion about before we, you know, think about that. But at least Andrew Yang is thinking about that. And that's the other solution to the problems of the disruption of Industry 4.0 that we're seeing all around us right now, is phasing in or bringing in, not even phasing in, but just implementing a universal basic income where we give everybody a certain amount of money every month, and then we let that filter through the economy, and we try to recover the cost in taxes. And one possible outcome that people talk about is that this might actually encourage people to become entrepreneurs and to take that $1,000 a month, and instead of just, you know, blowing it in on food and beer and wine and rent, that people might actually start investing that into their own home business, and that this universal basic income might actually encourage people to take more risks and to start their own home businesses, which would then grow the economy. So a lot of dynamics at work in the idea of a universal basic income. For me, though, after having broken the dependency on corporations to provide me a job, I do not want to turn around and become dependent on the federal government to be paying me $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, or whatever the the final universal basic income uh, is designed to be, if it even comes at all. But it is a possible solution to the problems of having more people in the United States than you actually have jobs for. And we are getting to that point right now. And as automation is phased in more and more radically, we are going to have to be facing, this reality. Self-driving cars are going to be a huge, huge disruptor. This is something that Andrew Yang has talked about in some of his speeches and presentations. The idea that self-driving car technology could soon get to the point where truck drivers are replaced by robots, robotic trucks that drive themselves. And of course, what happens then? Truck drivers right now earn a huge, a nice income. I won't say a huge income. Do a Bernie Sanders. It's huge! But no, they earn a decent income, a nice income. And I mean, it's a lot of work, driving and staying awake and driving safely and, trying to back those trucks into small places and all that. I've hung around a few truck drivers and worked on a few loading docks and seen how those guys drive. And yeah, they deserve all the money that they get. However, when companies find out that they can build robots that can do the same work and do it much more cheaply, and when truck driving gets to the point where it can be easily automated, and we are definitely moving in that direction now, what's going to happen to all the truck driving jobs? What's going to happen to all the people who used to earn a living driving truck? And what's going to happen to all the people who work at truck stops, provide food and lodging for truckers on the road? There's a lot of businesses that are reliant upon the trucking industry. And when human truck drivers are forced out of work, who knows when it might happen, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we might be seeing something coming down the line within 1 or 2 years. Who knows? It's uncertain, but when we do see that change, it's going to have a huge impact. Truckers will be out of work. Truck stop operators will be out of work. People who work at truck stops, waitresses, cooks, all those people are going to be out of work. It's going to be a huge disruption. And how are all these people going to go from being gainfully employed to being able to support themselves? Are they going to be living off of unemployment for a while? What's going to happen? We don't know, and not very many people are actually talking about this. Now, Andrew Yang, I disagree with him to a certain extent. I would kind of like to hear a little bit more about how we're going to pay for a universal basic income. And I do think it is doable. But my preference is working right now at this juncture before we see a 90% unemployment rate in the United States. I would like to encourage people to break the dependency on corporations and on government alike and start experimenting with creating their own home business. And that's what I advocate. Entrepreneurship, not necessarily a universal basic income. If it's phased in a responsible manner where we can pay for it without blowing up the deficit and where we can actually see it benefit our economy and entrepreneurship alike, then I'm all for it. But a lot of details have to be worked out. And the one caution too that as an entrepreneur that I would throw out again is that when we talk about freedom, when we talk about being independent, those are the core values of being an entrepreneur. being independent, being free, taking your own risks, and living with the consequences, be they good or bad. If they're good, then you live with it and you celebrate. If they're bad, you live with it, you learn from it, and you push ahead anyway. But with something like a universal basic income, I can see where, yes, it's going to be a help, but it's creating another layer of dependency. And I think what we need to do as a nation is train people to become independent. That's why I am an entrepreneur, and that's why I advocate entrepreneurship. And that's about all I'm going to talk about here in this video. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see some of my income streams that I use to help generate an income at home, I'm going to have the links down below in the program description, and you can go ahead and click on those links and check them out. I'd like to also say that there is no guarantee of income with any of the programs that I'm with. Becoming an entrepreneur is a process where you assume risk, and you work and you just hope things pan out. But there is no guarantee of success. I have seen in my own life, though, that if you take risks, if you work hard, if you work reasonably and responsibly and intelligently, you can and eventually will find success. But there is no guarantee of success. So keep that in mind. My income disclaimer is that, yeah, there is no guarantee of success in these or any other programs that I am participating in. Results are not typical, and your results will most definitely vary. Some people may do better, some people may do worse. It all depends on your own level of skill and on your own work ethic. So that said, I will close out this video. And yeah, check this out. And I hope that if you're not an entrepreneur right now, that maybe something I has said in the course of this video has encouraged you to check out different ways that you can earn an income from home. And there are many different ways of doing that. The ways that I have found are just a drop in the bucket. So go out there, experiment, work towards becoming independent. Independent of the corporation and independent of the federal government. And I think once we learn to do that, we can move ahead into a brighter, more stable future, even with the disruptions of Industry 4.0. Let's learn to feed ourselves so we're not having to eat the government cheese. This is Ralph, signing out.